Hello. Hi out there. Sorry we had some technical difficulties. I am Kyoka. I'm the awkward Black nomad. I'm a writer, I'm a dog mom, I solo travel, and I traveled across Europe with my chihuahuas. This channel is for all the Black girls who want to do the same thing, who might be a little shy, might be a little awkward, might be a little introverted. I went outside. You can also be outside. My guest tonight is somebody who actually stays outside. Every time I reach out to her, she is out in the streets. I love to bring extroverts onto my channel just so I can see what they're doing, get into their business. This is my friend Bianca. Burr, 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 burr.
Hey, that was like a nice introduction. I am outside.
Thank you. So, Bianca, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, how long have you been traveling? Where are you currently? Where have you been? How many countries have you been to?
Yeah, so I've actually been outside for like over 4 years. So over 4 years, I've been to about 25 countries. I haven't calculated in total, but I've been about 25 countries. I've been everywhere. I've been in Latin America, I've been in Europe, I've been in the Middle East, Asia. I do have a long list of places I want to go. I'm still trying to hit all continents. Uh, but yeah, I love traveling. It really has changed me totally as a person. And so I try to, if people are willing, I try to really like push them outside of their comfort zone and just like kind of go after it. I mean, why not?
You do push people out of their comfort. I mean, I guess we'll get to that. So you
Yeah.
I, you and I met when I was in Spain last summer, and I was
Yeah.
actually having a hard time in Spain, like because I feel like there's it's such an extroverted city, and so people are
It
like
is.
really social and really outside. And I was kind of like overwhelmed in that summer. But you really made it amazing for me. Like you made me enjoy Barcelona.
I mean, that made my day. Oh my God, you made my day.
Oh my
I know I'm
god.
like supposed to be like, kind of like professional. But anyways, you made my day. That makes me like so happy because we had so much fun. We were out in Barcelona. You got to use this.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I love Barcelona. It's perfect because I'm very extroverted and I feel like it's very easy to meet people. Um, but if that's not what you want and you don't want a crap ton of people around you all the time, I would
Um,
not suggest Barcelona.
remember remember you took me to like I think we were bar hopping because I didn't really hop. It was like a two hop, and then I was like, "Oh, girl,
You're like, I'm out.
all right, girl, I'm gonna see you later." But you were like, we were at the bar, and you were like, "¿Cuál es tu nombre?" Like, I was doing all of this, and I was like, "Oh my god." She's like, "You have to talk to people, Kyoka."
You do because they want to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? They want to talk to you. They want to know what's going on with you. You're you're exotic. You're beautiful. They want to see like what's your life story. Why are you here? So maybe it's because I'm a Leo, so I just kind of like assume these things at like all times.
That everybody
But
wants to talk to you.
not necessarily everyone wants to talk to me. But I've got something interesting to say.
You do,
You know.
which
So
is why you're here.
might as well share a little bit. Since I've came back home, I really haven't been talking about travel. So this is like cathartic, kind of get me back into like my flow of talking because I've kind of kept it to myself.
That's good. That's great. I want to go
Yeah.
into some of your experiences. So you said you were traveling for 4 years. What, where did that start? Like, what made you start traveling?
Yeah, so it actually started off with a girls' trip.
Mhm.
It was a group of three of us, and still I'm super close. I mean, she's my very best friend. But Shady, we went to Costa Rica, and it was I had never been out of the country, but I had got my passport, I think 3 years before I had even used it. But I always knew that I wanted to use it. I just didn't know how. I didn't know when. I didn't even like have a vision for traveling just because nobody had really guided me into like international life, right?
Mhm.
Um, my family's like quite southern. So that wasn't just something, but I just knew I was going to need a passport. So I got it. And then we had talked about like doing a girls' trip. And so we planned out this girls' trip. And this girls' trip was just, it changed me. I was pretty comfortable with the life that I had. I was like with my ex. We had like a really cute apartment in Austin. We were like talking about the future. Um, and eventually I wanted a dog. I mean, I hated my job, but that's just what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to hate your job, right? It's just kind of like a process of
You're
building.
supposed to
So
settle, right? Like you're supposed
yeah,
to
you're supposed to settle.
uh,
But I was also having like problems like in my relationship. It was not peachy keen. And so the thing about it is that trip totally changed me because when I came back, I was a completely different person. I realized everything that I had, it did not feel great as it once did. And I had post-travel depression. I that's what I call it, like my post-travel depression. Like I was sad. I can still
not you
feel
giving me a new term. Post
yes.
travel. So, what is post travel depression for the people?
You know what? So post-travel depression is this, and a lot of people go through it,
Hmm.
but they think it's just like it's only them. No, it happens to a lot of people. You go and travel and you have this most amazing experience. I can only like think of like when you're like high without like the drugs. You know what I'm saying? It's like this emotional high. You're connecting with people. You see things that you've never seen. You're laughing. You're dancing, drinking, exploring, whatever brings you pure joy. You might have a romance because travel romances happen quite a bit. And when you go back home and you realize that this place doesn't bring you the same joy as when you were traveling. And so you feel sad, right? I was like absolutely, undoubtedly depressed.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I remember my ex was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I just could not put it into words. Like, I just, going to work hurts, doing my same triangle hurt. It was not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And that happened in a week. And
Hmm.
so after that, I needed this fix again. And so it started from there. Then for me and my ex-boyfriend, and I went with two other friends, we went to Mexico, right? Uh, and it was amazing. It was so amazing. We broke up after that trip.
They,
A trip will make or break a relationship, but my life needed to unravel. I ended up quitting my job. My apartment was gone. Everything. I remember I was in an empty apartment and my friend let me borrow his dog for emotional support because I was like in this empty apartment. My whole life had unraveled and it started with that one trip. And then I took a gamble on myself, and after that, I never looked back.
so then your official, I would say, because you've been nomading for a long time, but what was that point where like you hadn't been back in the US in a while? Like you're like, okay, this is gonna be what I'm doing now. Like I'm just gonna live. What place was that you were like, okay, I won't be back. I'm not coming back?
Well, it was Costa Rica. I mean, Costa Rica completely was my foundation for traveling. So that original one thing, I had no clue that I was going to have a couple years in Costa Rica, and I actually he's still one of my best friends to today. The first day I met him, we have a group of three, and at this time we were just work friends, right? So usually I don't like making like work friends, but now we're besties. So she invited me to go to a drag brunch, and she was like, "You'll meet my best friend from college." And I was like, "I'm gonna go back to Costa Rica. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm gonna go back." And whenever he was like, "I'll go with you," this is the first day I met him. So we went back. I said, "I think I'm gonna live here." And then he said, "I think you are too." So when I came back to Costa Rica to eventually settle, I actually got stuck. I could not technically leave Costa Rica because of COVID. So I did all of COVID in Costa Rica.
Wow.
Um, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise. My COVID experience was quite different from everybody else's. I'm always like very empathetic about like the experience that people go through during COVID, but mine was not the same.
I want to touch on something that Angela Rochelle says. She says, I love that when it looked like things were falling apart, they were actually coming together for the lifestyle you're living now.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have a question too. So I've heard that before, that overseas people weren't having the same COVID experiences as we were having back in the US. So, like, what was that like in 2020 in Costa Rica?
So I was about 3 hours from the capital. So I wasn't like in a main populated area. Was living in a beach town, and it we were really delayed in receiving our first COVID case. And so whenever I saw the United States, so the government, this is something I'll talk about later. I actually learned when the government tells you you have one last warning, you either leave now or you're totally on your own. The US government means it. So when people say, oh, ignore those warnings, ignore those levels, it's not just about like whether or not you feel safety. It's also like if you need support from the US government to get out of spaces in times of period. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um, so the US government eventually said, I thought it was going to only be about 3 months. So I didn't really take it as serious, right? So it's only going to be 3 months. And so they totally closed down the border. I got very lucky because the Ticos, which are Costa Ricans, they totally took me in. Like we were a community. There were lockdown precautions, but they would take me through the jungle. We would go to like beaches that like no tourists would know about. And so we would have like with like people we were around, um, and like best friends that I had in the circles that I created, we really just took care of each other. They knew I was, I was a foreigner. This wasn't my home, and I was there during like a world catastrophic event, and they took such good care of me. All of them, I'm still really great friends with. And people, I just remember seeing like families, take precautions for their elders and go get them grocery store, like go to the grocery store, shop for them. It was just very much more communal than what I understood what was happening in the United States. Like everybody watched out for each other.
And do you speak Spanish fluently?
Well, tequila gets my Spanish real good.
Okay.
If I'm flirting, my Spanish gets really amazing. At
But
that time,
I'm trying to cut it off before you get yourself in trouble, friend. Did you have trouble knowing a little bit of Spanish? Did you have trouble in Costa Rica for that long without speaking Spanish fluently?
this is a privilege that I had. A lot of people knew English because they dealt with US tourists.
Mhm.
Um, and Tico speak a lot of English. So that wasn't really like a concern. Also, I was actively like taking classes. But the biggest issue was I would start in Spanish and they would reply back to me in English. And I'd be like, help me. But it's
They
not
want
your job to like help me, but
they want to practice their English.
they want to practice their English. So I was like, ah, come on. So, it was fine. Like I can get around. I can speak in Spanish. If there was like nobody to speak to me, I could have a conversation. I learned not to shake your head yes if you're not exactly for sure. That was like one habit I broke myself out of. So, but other than that, yeah, my Spanish has in the past been relatively good to get me around. If I need a taxi, to the taxis, because they will rip you off, I always made sure my Spanish came correct. I have a forever beef with taxis. So, but yeah, my Spanish was like decent enough to get me around.
And so as you've been traveling, like you mentioned, you're a very social person, but have you traveled solo? Have there been places where like you were just by yourself and had to, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, me leaving by myself, I mean, leaving the United States, I was by myself. The thing about it is I built up such a network internationally because other travelers know how it is. Like, hey, like they're just much more open to meeting other people. But like my first official where I went to a country where I knew nobody and I wanted that for myself was, I think, was it officially Portugal? I don't think it was until Europe where I just didn't know anybody. But I consider myself a full out solo traveler. I don't really go now. It's a little bit different because I do know a lot more. I have a bigger network, but I will go pretty much anywhere by myself as long as it's like safe for women.
Mhm.
But Portugal was like my official by myself. I don't know anybody. I don't have attachments to anybody. I'm not meeting anybody. And so after that, it was amazing. And I realized I don't want to wait for people to go travel. That like gives me the ick so bad.
Now, you mentioned safe for women,
Mhm.
but you are somebody who would go to destinations that aren't necessarily considered safe.
Yeah.
Where have you been that's not considered safe as a woman?
I mean, the Middle East is a hard, can be a place that you need to be careful. Heck, even when I went to Cambodia, I think I told you about that. I ran into that like kidnapping, like human trafficking incident. That scared the crap out of me. There's a lot of
Okay, don't
places I
cross
would
over that.
say.
Look, come back. Don't cross over that. What do you mean human trafficking kidnapping incident?
Uh, yeah, when I went to Cambodia, which was amazing, I stayed there for a month actually, and there's a place called Siang Reef is where I stayed, and it was like a quiet Cambodian town. It's kind of rural, but they like have this historic civilization called Angkor Wat, and that's what I went for because I wanted to see something so dynamic like that. But I ended up loving it, so I stayed. I was only supposed to stay for a limited time, and I was like, shoot, I'll stay for the whole month. But I needed to leave because my visa was coming up. And so I was supposed to go to I went to the capital. The capital was stressed me out so bad. And if you know me, I do not get stressed when it comes to traveling. But it stressed me out so bad. I left in 24 hours. I left. And that's why I say people can give you, um, they can tell you, hey, I felt perfectly safe, which I was told they felt safe. Uh, but that doesn't mean that you're going to feel safe. And you've got to decipher that for your own. I have no problem saying this doesn't work for me and I'm out. Oh, I dipped so fast.
Do you feel like has there ever been like a time where you didn't feel safe because you were black or because you were a woman?
I feel like, a lot of people won't necessarily agree with me, but I think being a woman causes me a lot more problems. Because of my blackness, I can really kind of use that for my advantage. And I'm gonna say I personally haven't had like any major, you meet smug people, or they might have their own perception about you being a black American. Okay, whatever, screw. Oh, I'm supposed to say screw. And okay, forget about it. That's very much so my personality, but being a woman has really caused me more conflict than anything because there are a lot of weirdos out there. So,
Weirdos just in general. I think I had
oh,
that experience too because it's like and I think it's hard for some people to understand, but it's like your womanness is
yeah.
kind of because I don't want to start preaching on today, but patriarchy is everywhere.
Oof, priest pastor.
And sometimes, because we're American, people hear us
Mm,
talk, and that gives you a certain level of like privilege and access in a way because we don't have an accent or we have the American accent. So it can be kind of beneficial
correct.
race in a way that it isn't in the US.
And I had to learn that kind of like I had to learn that the hard way because my perception about race was like so stuck in how America sees it, right? So I always thought like my race, excuse me, was my disadvantage. But until people started checking me, or when people started getting upset that I didn't see like my own personal American privilege, so I
Mhm.
started like I'm very like conscious about the places that I go to and kind of understanding where my privilege lies versus where I have a little bit more disadvantage. And a lot of times the disadvantage comes from me being a woman.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that I don't have issues with being black, but once they hear American, oh, you're American, you
Yeah.
know, you have it way better. Like we don't want to hear about your blackness. You make way more than I do. You're not suffering the way that I perceive
The
you
American
to be suffering. So I'd be like, dang, my bad.
I mean, two things can be true at once, right? Like somebody's foot is on my neck, but also I have to check where my feet are. Like, because I
Mhm.
can also be in every room that changes, no matter like
Correct.
who you're around. Yeah. So since you're so well traveled, what has been the most surprising thing that you've learned while on your voyages?
Yeah, well, that's actually that's a good question. Um, I think that the things that I value um, have changed because I can kind of see like what I care about, what I want, what uh, I really just learned who I am and letting go of like, because I don't have to worry about society putting me into a place, what I should be doing, because I'm over 30, no kids, I don't got the ring. So that's a big deal when I'm in my own personal society, right? But then when I'm traveling, I can just really focus about the things that I actually truly want and really kind of like feel totally comfortable in my skin about it. So now you can say those things to me. And I don't care because I know what I want and I'm not worried about everybody's timeline. It really changed my timeline and really took away the pressure because this is my life, you know? And my willingness to say no, I will tell you no because I've had to learn the hard way about not telling people no around the world and me being a woman and having to look over my, I would say no and I said no,
And that's on
you
period.
know, because you will get scammed. You will get scammed if you do not have the confidence to tell people no, tell people I'm not falling for it. So my confidence is a lot higher, and I just realized like I can really, if I really want it, I can really accomplish. Like, I really just shock myself in a lot of ways and going into spaces and really just creating memories, experiences, um, with not necessarily like a plan. Because I'm not hyper fixed on like my travel plans. And I can just like make things happen. I just have a lot more confidence in myself. And I'm just like way more just independent in thinking. I'm just vibing in this world and I'm gonna make it the way I want to make it.
I love that. I appreciate that. And I feel like I needed to hear it
Yeah,
as well.
we gotta remind ourselves. Because think about it. You as the one and with the two dogs, okay? You took yourself across the world and created a life outside of your own comfort zone. You did something that lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people are not willing to do. I mean, people will not even go to dinner by themselves, which I think is obscene. But I get it, but I still think it's obscene. People will not do these things because they're waiting for comfort for other people. They're waiting for approval. They're so afraid of getting embarrassed. Oh yeah, that's something I don't care about. I don't care about getting embarrassed. And they're afraid of like perception. And you're doing something that's totally outside the zone. People will never get to experience that for their entire life or have the even mind of thinking that they can do it. It's like very limited, right? And so, yeah, like you already have proved that to yourself. There's nothing more to say.
I agree. I agree. Like it's a big thing. And like you said, traveling alone or even like traveling for long term, you kind of like boost your own confidence, Like it's like, what can anybody do to me now? At that point,
Uh-huh.
because
Really?
I've done everything.
Facts. Like you it's like you can say something about me in like a poor manner and I'm like I know myself. Like I literally I jumped off a cliff like with a paraglide. Anyways, if I'm willing to do that, do you think I care about what you have to say about me? Like boo bye. You know what I mean? So maybe that's like a little bit of arrogance now, but I like really believe in myself in a different type of way. Don't get me wrong. Traveling does not solve your problems. Those problems that you had when you were at home will follow you abroad. So it does not fix all the problems, but it does help you grow out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think it helps you become more firm in who you are, right?
Mm.
Like you have access to a different version of yourself that you probably wouldn't have had if you hadn't gone overseas.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Because think about if you really were to look at yourself, like, I'm looking at Bianca back in the day, and I'd be like, shake her, be like, girl, girl, get get out of the pity party. Like, you're gonna do some things. Like, it's raining. I know it's raining, and you feel devastated. You're not for sure, and you just feel like your whole life is in shambles. But it's about to get good. Just hold on.
And then also, like, when is your life not in shambles?
What is-
If you're me, we're going from one chaos to the next, just hopping
I'm
around
Girl, I'm a Scorpio rising, so my life is about death and transformation and rebirth, just constant.
all the way, tower. Just break it down, rebuild.
There's never a sense of. I can always tell when I'm going to go through a transformation. I'm like, oh, here
Here
we
we go. Let me hold down my edges.
go. I don't even hold it down because they're going to be snatched,
Child,
yanked,
brace,
pulled, stomped out.
bracing for impact. Okay, so how do you plan for your destinations? How do you decide where to go? Are you like a super planner? Do you build out an itinerary?
Mm-mm. This is why I do not actually. This is why I don't give people really hardcore advice. I can tell you what it's going to be like when you get there. But I just kind of go with the flow. Now I can do this because, right, plane tickets in being back in the States, because I've been gone for, and this one time I did not visit for 2 years, right? Being back in the States, you have to plan, right? So you have to plan, you have to kind of like uh have the itinerary. But the way that I've lived, I could just say, okay, I'm gonna just go to another country. I'll give myself a week, to pack it up and just buy a plane ticket and find an Airbnb and take it from there. That's just because I'm just like have become so confident in my travels. And I kind of have like a sense of like the things that I want to do. Now I will research the place. I will research, find like the locations, what is safe, because I've made a mistake on not researching if a place was safe enough, and I regret that. So now I check how safe it is.
Place.
Um, huh?
Which place?
Marseille. Oh my God, Marseille was so ghetto.
Really?
Oh my God. That's the most.
What about the men's?
I didn't have time
Because
to look. I didn't even have time to look at the men. Well, although I did, there was like a really cute like African guy. I think he was from like Senegal, because in Senegal they speak French, right?
yes, in Cameroon. And
Yes, he
yeah,
was so
I love a man who with an
oh
accent.
he was so cute, super chocolate, cutest French accent. Because I was doing like this is when I realized like, okay, I can't just be walking around Marseille like I would normally in Europe, because Europe's very walking friendly. So I got on this like little train for like tourists. Will it take you through Marseille? And I think the French set us by each other because we were both black and by ourselves. And at first I was like, well, make it obvious. But then I looked at him and I said, "Oui, oui, hello." And he was so handsome, so moisturized, and like he was so kind. And we like talked for like, what was it, for like 35 minutes, I think, before I stopped. The only thing is like he smoked, because the French smoke so much.
Yeah.
And so he like went off to go smoke, and then he like I should say this, but also like the side teeth were like missing. But he was so attractive without like the smiling too much.
You can't trust no man whose side teeth are missing. That's the rule. If you know, you know. That's the rule. He got
Yeah,
side teeth.
he got it. I just knew like. So he walked away, and I just kept walking the opposite direction. But it was like fun ones. Like, I'm not looking for. It's not like I'm looking for like everything to create like this fantasy. Like, I enjoyed my time. He was very attractive, but Marseille, I was like ready to get out of. It was beautiful, but it was dangerous. It's like one of the most dangerous cities in Europe.
So for you, the most dangerous place is Marseille? Marseille?
No, the scariest time I actually had was Cambodia, which was in Phnom Penh, because they do have like like they're so human trafficking is definitely a thing, right? And I don't think that people talk enough about in Asia, like sex trafficking
Mhm.
and it being a thing. And you do see it a lot like within cultures. And my assumption is like I really don't fit what they want to traffic. But Phnom Penh, I was somebody that they were willing to traffic. So I
Mhm.
stayed out of Phnom Penh. I got out immediately. That was the scariest. And Marseille, I just saw a lot of fighting. I think they assumed I was French, because people would start talking to me in French. So they didn't bother me as bad, and I didn't talk much because I was by myself. Just didn't talk much. I just pretended like I knew where I was going. I went like through their subway system, and I just like walked with confidence, and I just like imitated their body language. So the French, they got a little attitude, so I had a little attitude too. So they didn't really bother me, you
Mhm.
know. But I definitely was ready to get out. I went right back to Spain, right back.
So then where do you feel safest? Where have you felt safest?
Thailand is amazing. I think as a woman, uh, I just felt great in Thailand. Like I could walk at night in Thailand and never felt like anybody was like going to bother me. I really like being in like Buddhist centered Buddhist centered countries just because of uh like their cultural values about like stealing and robbing because they're like worried about like karma and stuff like that and reincarnation, so they don't like to do all that stuff. You know what I mean? You're not going to have to really worry about people stealing from you. I personally don't like have any issues with like being in Europe. The only thing is that they steal, so I have to really watch my purse, and don't touch me because they really like to try to touch where don't touch me, but I don't really have an issue when I was like in Europe, you know. Latin America, you have to be careful. You have to be careful in Latin America.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're gonna travel, you should definitely have sort of a system, right? Like, don't keep all your money in the same place. Have
Correct.
something that, like, have one of those purses that kind of strap, or have like a little fanny pack or something. Don't make yourself a target. But in
Correct.
terms of like, pum pum, or
Yeah.
you don't have you don't have those.
And you know what's so funny is, so this is like particularly when I was in Europe, somebody said, "Oh my God, like I got robbed," and I was like, "Oh my God, you got robbed!" Like I'm so sorry to hear because I'm thinking,
Mhm.
God, beat up hospital, and the guy looked at me like, "What? I'm fine," and I was like, "Oh my God, like they're robbing here, girl." It's just because somebody stole like, I'm not saying like belittle it, but they just like stole their phone or their card or something like that, and I'm like, okay, we haven't told. So they stole from you. They didn't rob you. I was
No, yeah, they'll slip a hand in your pocket.
real quick.
They'll slip a hand in your pocket real quick. If you in Spain, if your phone is on the table, you're gonna look down, it's gonna be gone.
God, and people do not believe me. I had a few friends visit me in Barcelona. This was like last year. And I kept telling them, put your phone up. They will take it. And, it's so romantic. It's so romantic. And you just got the air of Europe. I said, put your phone up. And then somebody comes up to me like, hey, put your phone up. And
Yeah.
like they looked at them serious. And guess what? They put their phone up. I said, I told you, you should listen to me. Because you were about to be phoneless, and I was just gonna let you experience that since you didn't want to listen to me the first time.
Oh yeah, I remember I was at a restaurant in Barcelona, and one of the waiters came out to me. I had been, what was I holding? I had been shopping, and I had like, nothing valuable, but I put like the bag on the table, and there was like this partition right here. And the waiter came up to me and was like, move that. Like, move that and put it in the chair, put it under the table, put it somewhere else, because the guys on the bikes, some of the delivery guys, somebody ride through there, reach a hand over
Oh,
that partition and yank your stuff up. Like, you always have to be vigilant.
yeah. That is real.
Yeah.
It's even like when you're on like in it's like this in Europe, but also even though I do feel very safe in Asia, I don't put it past anybody because although I don't think that the locals are gonna steal, I don't know the foreigners that are coming there either. You know what I mean? You might have a criminal record. I don't know you. You know, I'm keeping my eye on you. You know what I'm saying? But even when you like, I love to like ride the motorcycles in Asia. Even when you put your phone on the motorcycle, you need to be careful because people can yank. Now, you know, I was told if I were to ride a did I ride a motorcycle in the Philippines too, or a moped, whatever you call it? I was warned about that. You know, just be conscious of like with it being on your little moped slash motorcycle.
Mm. So now that we've terrified the people, um, let's move on to lighter subjects.
Yeah. Like I never want.
But I think this is a good perspective to have because it's like, okay, people are really scared to go overseas, but when you put it in perspective, and we live in Texas, so it's like being in Texas where there's like hardly any gun control, and
Correct.
so it's like in comparison, having somebody yank up your phone, it's terrible. It's very inconvenient. I use my phone for everything. But in hindsight,
Correct.
it can be replaced. It's not my life.
Correct. Correct. Because even when people ask me about Texas and like, you know, the gun laws, I'm like, yeah, you know, if you're on somebody's property, you know, people will say like you're on my property, trespassing, the right to kill and all that stuff like that. And people are like so shocked by that like idea. So it is a matter of perception of like how you perceive danger. Although like these things like you need to be conscious about like people pickpocketing you, but your overall time there is going to be pleasant and lovely. You just need to be conscious. And also you don't know the place either. You don't know the language. So you just gotta be like on top of yourself. But the fun that you have outweighs, and when you do travel quite a bit, you can laugh at these things later. You know what I mean? It comes with the territory, but you can laugh and you can say like, "Look, I just will know better next time."
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, so what's the best country you've been to where you're like 10 out of 10 will do again?
That's like such a hard question. I would have to like, I think I would have to like think about like categories.
Okay, where's the best food?
Oh, oh my God. Well, can I say like a couple countries for these answers?
Sure.
Okay, so let me get in business mode. Um, so when it comes to food, I mean Thai food is just so good. Thai food, no, sorry, scratch that. Thai food is great, but Vietnam, oh my God. The food in Vietnam is just me thinking about the food in Vietnam just brings me absolute joy. I mean, absolute joy. And you know, colonialism, yes. So there is a fusion of French and the Vietnamese food. But how the Vietnamese handled with that fusion and really have created their own. Now I know the food is different. I only went to the south. I only went to the south. No, I kind of went into like the center of Vietnam, but I didn't go up north. I know the north is a different experience, but what I had in South Vietnam was just spectacular. Like I tore that so up, and at some point they were just like ready for me to come back in, just because I would just continue to eat pho. Pho? Yeah, I would just continue to eat pho, and just like everything that I had was just the desserts were top notch. I mean, I'm like Lily Salad. I cannot wait to return back to Vietnam. A little cliche, but I mean, I love the food in Italy. I mean, I ate the gelato, ate down. I mean, I ate down.
Pasta?
Um, and also I did like the food in France. I know that a lot of people. I mean, the food. I had a better because I go to the south more, the south of France. But when I was in Antibes, and I just was like roaming around Antibes by myself. By the way, we'll get back to that later. But black women, older black women, are living their life. It's like I
In
kept
the
just
south
saying,
of
like,
France?
oh my gosh,
Oh yeah.
yes, oh my
Oh,
god,
yeah.
and they were fabulous, and they had their husbands from all over the world. Um, and they were like, I was just sitting there and like they would smile and walk by, and I was like, oh my God, did I find like the secret like little gathering? It's an auntie. It was fabulous, and the food was so good. I love eating in the South. I'm really big into seafood. So I had like just such a great time. Even with Marseille, it had me stressed out. I do not like cheesecake, but oh my God, they had this cheesecake. It had it was like a sugar like you know how like when you melt sugar and then it has that kind of like
Yeah.
outside layer, but it was like the outside layer was like lemon and like it had like a crunch as you go through the cheesecake. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Not me salivating. You know
Salivating.
I'm a foodie.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I know people don't like I didn't have a bad experience with eating in Paris. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I liked it. I
No, I
tried
had,
escargot. I love champagne and stuff like that and the wine. So I had a great time in France eating.
oh, I loved eating in France as well. Like, I feel like I never had a croissant before going to Paris.
Oh,
I feel like I never had like a pastry before going
girl.
to Paris. I was like, what
And,
have I been eating all my life?
and it's like they make it with their heart and soul. Like they were born and bred to make this croissant to bring you pleasure. And that's why I feel a little bit like I don't want to say agitated, but it is a little bit irritating coming back to the States and looking at grass walls and like lights and decor. But the food, like, did you just forget about the food? And you
Yeah.
want me to pay $100 and something, but
Yeah.
you didn't put any love in the food. Where are the fresh ingredients? Where's the passion? Where's the excitement? This is like supposed to be an experience. I don't care about your grass wall. I want fine dining, but fine dining does not have to mean you pay. Oh, I went on a rant about this last week. I have a friend who's an art critic, and I just kept going on and on. The thing about it is food is art and you need to treat it as such. Like I'm coming here for a rememberable experience because I want to be able to share it with other people and say like, "Oh, I had this moment and it went on with me forever." But people just don't do it here. And I'm speaking only for Dallas. So
Faith says, I am so hungry now. This conversation having
like
about
it's just it's such an experience and I just love eating and I just love like how excuse me. And I just love how like food has really like brought me together and it has like helped me meet other people and like people share their stories about like their culture and I just have learned so much about like people's cultures their experience through food through wine through like their local liquors that they make the liqueur whatever you want to call it and so yeah I really appreciate food in a different way than I ever had before so I it's hard for me to be back in the States and it's not mindful.
and it's processed.
It is process.
Right. Like you could be sitting adjacent to a mountain, okay, where somebody's grandmama handmade bread. The wine that they're going to pour you comes from vines
Ah,
in the family vineyard. Everything is so intentional and so fresh and not even half the cost, less than half the cost of how it is in the US.
ah,
It makes you
I
angry.
mean,
When I think about the glasses of wine I've had for
you
$2.
for $2. Oh my gosh. Like going to like walk. I remember when I was in Spanish school in Barcelona, right? I remember leaving Spanish school, walking to the market, grabbing me a couple bottles of wine, And these are really great bottles of wine. They're no more than €4. Going back to the apartment and just like being able to enjoy such good wine and
Yeah.
cava, and it just be like everybody.
Yes.
I and people might not agree with me, but I believe everybody should be able to enjoy these things without it bankrupting people
Yeah.
to enjoy. Also, I think it's just to get people to pay more, but you do not have to pay. And it got me out of that habit of thinking the more I pay, the better it's going to be, because that is false.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, we're going to get off the food conversation, but I
Oh
do
my
have
gosh.
a question from the Flying Virgo. She's asked, how did you choose restaurants in Vietnam? Which one is safe?
Oh, in regards of safety of like stomach.
I'm not sure.
So I'm gonna assume stomach. You can't guarantee that. Um,
You just gotta you
I
gotta
you just
let your taste buds lead you.
My friend actually just asked me this advice because they're going to be going. They asked me advice about their trip through Asia, and I suggested you're going to have medicine. You're going to it, and my stomach has built up pretty well, but it comes with the territory. You are just going to have some
So
catastrophic
you
moments.
so you've decided to come to my channel to tell a lie because I remember
What?
not too long ago,
What are
somebody
you
went
saying?
out for the count because they were eating, what was it, street food?
Oh yeah.
And were you in Thailand when this
Oh
happened?
my. Thailand. Oh, I definitely got sick in Thailand. Cambodia had me down bad. I love Cambodia. And people are get really confused about like my time in Cambodia. Cambodia was dramatic in certain things, but it was amazing. It's one of my best trips I've ever had. It changed me internally. But the food had me sick as a dog.
Is
And
that why it changed you internally? Because everything was coming out?
when I tell you I was sick, I mean, I was not dying, but I was like sweating, and I was just like, and I knew it. I knew once I started eating those noodles, I said, I don't think this is going to end up very well. And that's exactly what had happened. That's exactly what had happened. But Cambodia is a very poor country. So unfortunately, they've gone through just so much in their history. It's really heartbreaking, but they're really rebuilding back the country. Unfortunately, like some of those sanitations and what I'm just used to as an American, um, it just didn't meet. And the food also, although Cambodians feel like the Thai have stolen a lot of their culture, I did think that Thai food was much better than Cambodian food.
Hot take. I've never had Cambodian food, but
Well, from what my understanding is that like it's very similar, because a lot of those, like, we look at everything like based on current borders, but a lot of these borders weren't made until like the last 100 years, so a lot of cultures are very infused. So there's a lot of similarities as you go through. Like, the best example is like through Asia, because a lot of these had like certain like kingdoms or certain empires who reigned, and those borders currently weren't there,
mm,
right? So now it's like it's made down, but there's a lot of similarities with the food. So Thai and Cambodian food have a lot of similarities.
okay. Okay. So your advice for people, if you're going to go to
Oh
Asia,
yeah.
just bring something, pack it with you,
No, take it everywhere. Take
take it
it everywhere. Take it
Asia.
everywhere. Yeah, take it everywhere. In Vietnam, I mean, talking to the locals, that's a big thing. If I'm not really for sure where to go, I will always talk to locals. Vietnamese people are so very open. They are so kind. I went with a friend and they loved us so much. I mean, Vietnamese people were so kind. I had a time in Vietnam. We danced. They had like the government the government hosted a music festival when we were there, because we were there during Christmas. They hosted this really awesome music festival. We danced all night. They put us on the big screen. They said, "Hey, there's some black foreigners here, y'all." the
Cool now.
little,
The blacks are
the,
here.
yeah, the little girls were like, uh, when we walked by, they would do the little heart thing. But the Vietnamese people were so personal, and we just like met cool people. Even when we'd go out, they would just make sure that like we were taken care of. So talk to the locals. That's all. That's what I always do because they're gonna know what's the best food, and they're also gonna help you stay away from tourist traps. But that's how I'm like, where y'all going? Where's the real food? Where
Right.
is Granny? What is Granny cooking?
I want to eat what y'all eating at.
You know, I just gotta the mistake I made in Costa Rica at the time when I moved to Costa Rica. I had not ate pork in 14 years. Now I eat it now, but I had not ate pork in 14 years. And so somebody, I was like, what are the people eating? I want to eat with the people. They said bet, and they said, oh, and I was still working on my Spanish, so basically they were making chicharrón, and I said, okay, great, que bueno, vamos, okay, let's go. I looked at what they were cooking, and they had a spread out for us, and it was full of pork, and I said, oh God, and I ate it. I ate I ate it. After 14 years, I broke. And I said, you know what? I want to be respectful. They took all their time out, their money, their resources. We made sure that they were paid and stuff like that. But they just took time out to make sure that we had a good time. So I ate that pork and it was great. And after that, I've eaten pork since then.
Now I don't eat meat these days, but if I start
Are you,
traveling, I'm gonna amend my diet.
are you gonna be a flexitarian?
I'm gonna be a when I feel like it Tarian. Let me tell you,
Wait.
lamb.
I don't like lamb.
I love lamb.
Just that aftertaste is a little funny for me, but I've had lamb in the Middle East and it was very good. But other than that,
So, how has it been partying? So you mentioned you were dancing. So, like, what's the vibes? Have you ever felt unsafe? Obviously, you're going out at night to the clubs. Where's the best club scene? Where's the most dangerous?
um, you know what? I like personally, I like partying with like Latinos in Spain. I think that they really understand to really dance and they drink, but they stay up all night. I mean, I have really partied very well in Spain, but it's just like when I was out in like Costa Rica, Colombia, like Panama. Nah, Panama was okay. But just like Latinos in Mexico too, they just really know how to have a good old time. Like everybody's talking and social. Tequila. You do have to have boundaries. You have to have boundaries and tell people no, and they're gonna keep you up until like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
The
But
drinks
if
are
you want to have
the drinks are flowing.
the drinks are flowing. If you're looking for a time, I definitely suggest Spanish slash Latinos. They they know. Like even one time, I think what was this with Alex? She was like, "Oh, I want to go out," and uh, the Spanish were like, "Okay, so we'll start going out at 1 a.m." And all the Americans were like, "1 a.m." We're like, "What do you mean we're started at 1 a.m.?" They're like, guys, it's Spain. It's the same thing in Latin America when I'm ready to go home. They're like, it's too early for you to go home. It got to the point where they knew I was going to go to bed early. So sometimes we'd have a bed ready. So if I need to take a nap, and
Well,
then I could wake up.
they love a siesta. That's how they could pregame with a siesta.
Well, no, that was in Latin America where they were like,
Oh,
girl, you're
really?
gonna have to wait. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait. So they would accommodate. But also I had a great time in Paris. I partied and I actually went by myself when I partied in Paris. And this guy, he was African and he was like really big into the fashion scene. And I actually did Airbnb experiences are very underrated, I think. So I did an Airbnb experience. It was like an Afro beats type of like come out at night. But we had a lot of fun whenever, we were paying for the Airbnb experiences. But I was telling him like, oh, I want to go out again. And he was like, cool, bet. Come back. I got a spot. I'm going to be hosting all that stuff. And I had so much fun. And the French girls, believe it or not, but they were so nice because it was like in the VIP section. Girls can kind of be weird about you coming into territory, but they
Mm.
were nice and they danced all night long. I've never seen people from all cultures just dance and the screams and the yelling. And I don't know, some boxer came through. People were freaking out. Like the French were rowdy. when I was there, and that was like a lot of fun. I really enjoyed partying in Paris, and I went to a couple clubs over there.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things about the French. Like when I went, I had a nice time. I liked everybody. It was fine. The food was amazing. But I've also heard people have those experiences where they're like, "Oh, French people are so rude," or like it's hard to like meet French people or whatever it is. But I really feel like that's an experience you have to go and see for yourself. Cause like every time it's gonna be different.
I think so, but I've also heard two things. I've heard that uh, it can be the French can be a little bit more politer with just from what I've heard with like Black Americans, right? And I've heard they have been a little bit harder on maybe white Americans, but also being around Europeans enough, I will meet your attitude. And also, I don't. Europeans are very sassy in demeanor and how they talk to you, and what we consider rude in America, they don't necessarily. They will call us sensitive. So you know what I learned? I just meet their energy too. Okay. Oh, okay. And then especially when they start getting on to like, oh, why do you Americans do this? And then this is what I always say. I know about your country's history. You want to go toe to toe. You really want to get into it. And then usually the silence. Because I can. We can go toe to toe. We can talk about the US
Yeah. They
and why
love
we do this.
they love to be like, you Americans always. Why do you guys like cheese so much? Whatever it is. And it's like, don't let me get into your people.
Exactly. And also like maybe we'll just talk about like, oh, like why are you Americans so loud? You are not that soft spoken. Have you heard an Italian get mad? Have you heard an Italian get mad?
No, really.
Have you seen how Europeans act in stadiums for like world sports events? So let's not talk about decorum because we can go tit for tat. I've seen the British act up during their holiday seasons.
Brits,
They
the
get
Danes,
drunk. They get smashed and act
Germans
obscene.
act a fool. There was one time I was riding the tube and it was like 2 o'clock. When I tell you Miss Mamas was sitting there on her third White Claw, I said, "Ma'am, we the day has yet to roll into night, and we're getting sloshed like in the middle of the day. The people are in the pub, several years deep.
Like, leave
Alcohol is
us alone. Look at your
leave us
own self. You know what I'm saying? So I will call them out. And that's why I know that a lot of people like to shy away from like places that like have attitudes, but also I like to like every day I don't want to be like overly friendly Southern girl. So I use it as my own way of like being sassy too. Well, forget you Americans will forget you too.
yeah,
We can
I think it's a way to sort of dispel that like that politeness that we've sort of been forced into as Black
yes.
Americans. Like, so part of it is like that Southern hospitality, but then there's also like this element of maybe even compliance to it, like behave this way to be an acceptable Black person. Whereas like when you go overseas, it's just kind of like, no, 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 I'm embracing your culture.
It is very much so like that. Like everybody's like so worried about like what will they think? They already hate you. They don't like you. Like so you have nothing else to prove. I've literally said hello to a French person and they're like, oh, oh. And I said, I don't have to talk to you. I do not have to talk to you. Like we don't have to. I'm not gonna like have this whole time improving to you that like I'm different as an American. Now
Yeah.
people treat me a little bit different once they realize I've traveled quite a bit because Europeans do, or I would say just in general, people do look at it a little bit different, but also they can't talk all that junk. So no little history so you can start letting people know I know about y'all too.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, I think I was talking about this on my live yesterday. Like a lot of Black Americans are just starting to really travel, and
Mm,
we're changing the opinion. Like a lot of people have come into contact with Americans, white Americans, or
yeah,
and that is what's coloring the perception of Americans. But like, no, 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 we're showing you that there are different kinds of American. And
exactly.
yeah, and I would say it's to our credit.
Exactly. And they get to see a diversity of beauty. And then also, you can stop asking Black Americans where they're really from. And that's also what we're teaching the world too, is that when we say we're Americans, it just stops at that.
Right.
And I won't have to keep explaining to you. And then you get uncomfortable when I just say slavery. And then I hold the pause, and then you're uncomfortable by it. So I think we're helping molding them to understand that we are Americans and we have our own culture, we have our own food, we have rituals that we do, we have a certain mindset. Like there's a lot that incorporates us being an official culture. So
Exactly. Period. um so
you're like, uh-huh.
I want to talk about dating.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love dating
Yeah.
abroad.
Where is the like what have your experience what's overall what's your experience been?
It's been great. I realized like when I left the state, I mean, like dating wasn't bad when I was in the States, but it wasn't great either. Also before I was like in a few year relationship, but the guys, it's kind of still that mentality like, what do you have to bring? And like having to okay, I don't love cooking. I don't love cooking, but I always was told like, if you want to keep a man, you got to keep his belly full. You got to do this as a woman. So I took all those societal standards and was trying to incorporate that into dating, and it just wasn't really that great. So one of the things is that when I broke up with my ex, I knew that I never wanted to let a man know that I was willing to cook for him. And there's like certain things that I wasn't willing to tell him that I was gonna cook, clean, none of that. I was gonna keep it as, what do you bring to the table? I bring absolutely nothing. I
100%.
bring nothing.
Not a thing.
You gonna get you just gonna get me in this wig. You know what I'm saying?
Period.
Um, so
Period.
I
You
kept
talk about weaponized incompetence. My hands don't work.
they they've never seen Clorox. Now I can clean a house down, but you don't need to
You
know
don't
that.
need to know that.
Okay. Now I don't love cooking, but I can figure out a 1-2 season it. I can, but you don't need to know that. So, so whenever I started in Costa Rica, that's when I just realized like I wasn't looking for, and that's still to this day. I don't necessarily like. I'm not looking for. You're with a guy, and then people are like, "Oh, when are you gonna marry him? Like, what's long term? Like, let's just enjoy the moment. I might hate this man in about 2 to 3 weeks. So let me just enjoy the moment. So when I went to Costa Rica, I went very much so with that mindset. I'm just here for just to figure out, what travel life is going to be like, transitioning my life. And that's when I like experienced like, that Latin passion, that flirtation, the guapas, the beautiful, just making a girl feel on cloud nine, and that's why I was like, oh, this is fun. Like I had so much fun, like just the men being like super flirtatious, and also it taught me, it kind of like broke me out of like that like Southern girl thing of like every, because the guys will give you passion, they will give you this charisma, make you think you're the only girl in the world, but a lot of Westerners fall for it, and they're ready to, oh, the times I've seen people change their whole lives for a Latino man, and this is just based off experience, up and leave their whole life just to find out he told the same girl that, the exact same word for word, bar for bar. Now
Mm.
you're in a predicament. So, anyways, I remember there's this guy that I call him Aries. He's one of my favorite guys. He was older, he's Venezuelan, but he worked in the States, but he also worked in Costa Rica. He worked out throughout Latin America. And I remember he was just like, "Oh, I want to take you on a date," but we didn't live in the same city. So he sent a driver to come pick me up. And he was just like, he led the whole time that we were there. Like he took me on these really nice to these like really nice restaurants. He listened to what I wanted. Um and he was just like so romantic. He was like quieter. The men that I actually like date long term are on the quieter side because I need to be the one that's talking. Okay. Um
Such a
I'm
lady.
I'm not finding a man for the microphone. So, anyways, he was just like so charming and very thoughtful and like romantic and like very passionate. And I think he just was like really taught me like a new level of like dating. And that's what I always felt like. I've just like met these like super romantic men. And I don't necessarily need them to be with me my whole life, but really those moments, I realized I deserve these moments. I deserve like guys to treat me like I'm the most beautiful thing. No, we don't have to create a whole life because this isn't the only time a man can tell me I'm beautiful because I am beautiful. And it really broke me away from the standards of how we see beauty in the States, right? And so that was like super empowering. And when I went around the world, it was the same thing. I dated an Italian, um, and we barely could speak to each other, girl. We barely could speak. But I didn't promise to cook, and he would come to while I was working. He would come to the apartment. He would cook. He would make a little charcuterie board and amore, and he would just wait for me to finish eating, and we would go to the beach together. And he was so thoughtful. He was also like an artist, so he would set up his studio, and he would like make a little painting session for me and teach me like how to paint. And he was just like so thoughtful. I left, so I also realized like as women, you don't have to stay behind and create a whole life with a man. You can just get on that plane, go to another place, and know that you're going to have more romantic experiences. And that's exactly what happened. I left Europe and I I went to did I go? I think I went to Thailand and I kept dating. I kept dating and it was just like it was the same thing. I met like these super romantic, thoughtful guys and it was never that conversation of how much of a woman are you? Do you meet all my criteria? It was like me just showing up and they just thought I was wonderful and beautiful and they was just happy to be there and I was enjoying the vibes. And so
This is
yeah.
this is why I tell Black women they need to travel because
Mhm.
just just to just to have variance, right? Like just to have
Correct.
different dating experiences. Like, because in the US, I think dating sometimes can be kind of stressful. It can be kind of stressful. But then you go to these different cities and you're on the backdrop of like this super gorgeous historical place or this beautiful location. And someone is just fawning over you. Someone is just like treating you like a princess, and you've done nothing for it. Like you don't have to do anything. There's a
Yes.
thought you were pretty, and it's taking you out on this amazing date that he put thought into. I think like it's so valuable just to have the experience to that.
It really is. I'm not saying that how you see your beauty is based on other people, right? Because you need to love yourself. Love yourself. But let's be real. It is important for you to feel beautiful. It is important for somebody to say, you know what? Especially because not every day you're gonna be like, oh, I'm the most beautiful girl in the world, or you're talking to yourself in the mirror. Sometimes you don't have it within yourself. But to have somebody say, you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Period. Flat. That's it. You are the most beautiful woman. You're not the most beautiful woman for a Black woman or for a Black girl. You are just the most beautiful woman. And it really changed how, and I'm so glad I really experienced that because it really changed how I experience men and dating. And those experiences will go with you for like a lifetime.
Mhm. And what about the people who will ask if it was fetishing?
here's the deal. You can tell. I mean, you can tell when somebody is like, it's so obvious. So it's like when somebody like makes it centered around this. I also take that my idea of fetish is like how I perceived it here. It's men are men regardless where they are in the world. So they're gonna say the same corny thing here and say it the same thing in their language or in their broken English. And
Sis,
so you, it's true. They're gonna sit around like, oh, I love girls with your, oh, the skin color, oh, I just only love black, and it's the same crap, and you'd be like, okay, I'm out. And it's like the same dissing of your own culture. I don't want to, you like to build me up. You do not need to diss other women because other women from other cultures are beautiful too, right? So I apply the same thing, and you get the ick regardless. It's not like any old guy with the accent you're just gonna fall for. So, and then sometimes maybe I have been because I like a good accent. So sometimes I just want a man to speak to me in his accent, and that's all I want. Be like, well,
listen.
thank you, Pierre.
Well, I love a French accent. Like, I don't know what you're saying, but say more of it.
And what in a way, isn't that kind of like us doing the same thing and like fetishizing? There's degrees. There's degrees. We all like certain things. We all like a good accent, but it doesn't mean that like we're exploiting people or we're talking down. I don't know. It's very obvious. It's very
Yeah.
obvious when a man is being a fetishizer.
And you can weed those people out. Like, it's very clear. They're so upfront about it to where, like, if you're talking to someone and you realize like, oh, they're kind of, they're looking at my hair a certain way, or they're kind of like looking
Yeah.
child for or my skin, or like I've had people say weird stuff about like my nose. And so it's like, if you feel the ick, listen to it and just
Oh, for sure.
block. That's it.
And don't think men across the world are the same. The
Yeah.
same BS that you have back home, they can play the same games. The same games because men are trifling around the world. They do the same things. But, it's a little bit different on how they approach dating.
Mhm.
Also, the whole like 50-50 thing, especially, I never really fell for the 50-50 thing because if I'm going to be spending all this makeup, all these clothes, all my time, blah, 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 you're going to be paying for it. Okay. But especially in other cultures, they would not even think about a woman paying.
It's
But
so
it's
even for coffee, they wouldn't allow you to pay. Like, it
would
never
not.
comes up. When I tell you, it has never come up. And another thing is, no one asks you what you do. Like, men don't really ask you what you do unless they genuinely want to know, like to know like what you're interested in, but they're not asking you to figure out what your income is because they don't
No,
care.
they don't. Girl, they could be scraping
Because you
up
don't
nickels
get for anything. So why do I need to know how much money you make?
because I'm the man.
Exactly.
They could be outside scraping up change, but I guarantee you they're gonna figure out a way to pay.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even look at my wallet because I'm not even gonna try to do the whole like that's a very American thing of girls like checking for their wallet and just being courteous. He will
No.
curse me out for even trying. So go ahead.
Yeah. They don't play those games outside of the US. It's not much of a discussion. I think in the UK sometimes they do that. They'll play the game, but I never saw it.
I've only been in the UK. I've only been in Ireland, and ooh, now those Irish boys will flirt.
I love Ireland.
It was a little when I went to Ireland, it was like a little sunny, but it's too gray for me. The whole UK weather thing it doesn't really work for me. But like the Irish boys are very flirty, very flirty. They love them some black girls.
It's because they're drunk. I'm just kidding.
They do drink heavy. Ooh, they drink heavy. Ooh.
So, in your experience, what are the best and worst countries to date in? Like, have you had a bad dating experience?
Um, Like as in a story like where it totally went wrong?
Yeah.
Uh, no, I don't think I've necessarily had like an experience where like I had a date. Oh, I mean, I've had like a boring date, but for me, that's pretty a bad experience. I just don't like people who aren't like very. This goes with men. I don't really enjoy men who are just not like very good in conversation and where I'm holding in. But anyways, other than that, being like bored was like my only. Yeah, I don't really have any like awful dating stories. Like my bad dating stories are from the States, not really traveling outside.
So then where have you had the best dates? Like what country?
I really ultimately like dating in Latin America was really great. I really like dating in Latin America, especially the guy that I was talking about. He just always, every time we would go on a date, he just really came with a very thoughtful, making sure like I had the best experience in fine dining. Um, I dated in Thailand, and I just think I've really got really lucky with just like men who put a lot of effort into like coming up with really, who have been really conscious about um creating a really special date. I really actually got really lucky with that. Even when I was in Costa Rica, a guy took me and he like really thought about like curating where he was going to take me like through the country, like because it's a small country, so like through the cities and the beach and setting up and like putting a little picnic out there, and it's just like very conscious. I really got lucky. I don't really have like really any like bad dating stories, but Latin America was great. Yeah, dating in Asia. Okay, I will say this: dating. I really didn't date Asian men. I dated foreign men in Asia, so I don't really have like a really great perspective. Although Vietnamese men, they were ready. Unfortunately, I wasn't available.
Really?
Oh my God, girl. Vietnamese men were ready. They said what time, when, was not available to date, but
Were there
they
tall Asian men?
they're taller. They're no, are they taller in? There are some places that they're taller. I think I've met taller Vietnamese men or just taller Asian men, but out of all the places, Vietnamese men ain't no problem. I don't care how tall you are. Let's go. I had fun in Vietnam. I think, and people do not like Ho Chi Minh, but I had the time of my life in Ho Chi Minh.
People don't like what men?
Ho Chi Minh, Saigon, it's their capital.
Oh, okay.
People don't like but I think the capital is very underrated. I think that if you do try to actually like if you go during the holidays or like Chinese New Year, I highly suggest people to enjoy Asia when they're having like their festivals. I mean, it is just some of the most dynamic decorations, festivals, food. I mean, it is really one of a kind. And they all have different dates. So you got to really kind of decide which one you want to go to. Like their celebrations are similar, but their dates depend on like their cultural reference. But yeah, they were ready. I was like,
Not to get off topic, but didn't you get you'll have to remind me, but your tattoo,
okay.
where
Yeah, it's on my back. So I got a sock yacht. I got a
was
traditional tag tattoo. The sock yachts, you can choose which one, but it's basically it's like a prayer in Khmer. And what they do is they take a long needle and they do it traditional. They stab you. And when I tell you, I was trying to get three of them. The best person who is famous that I can think of, who she actually adopted in Cambodia. I don't think she adopted in Thailand. But anyways, Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie has them all over her body, and they are painful. And you cannot. The You're supposed to be in a meditative state in a temple, and because I'm a woman, the Buddhists cannot touch me. So they teach somebody who's an ex-Buddhist to do it, and it's like you're just supposed to go inward. The problem is that I was not going inward. I was Like I was a mess, and they kept trying to translate to me like, you need to like meditate, you need to like pray within. I was like, how am I gonna pray within when you're stabbing me? Of course, I said it with politeness and understanding and trying to be like culturally understanding. But inside, I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is way more painful. And it's like on my spine, it's on my shoulders. And the second one that I got, I was like bleeding. But it was just like, it's just like this experience, like being in a temple, having a Buddhist monk pray for you, like they're doing their chants. As they're doing it, they're like each poke is just mindful. So it's just a very, the tattoo is more about like experience and memories and the mindfulness, and they like bless you. It's like just a whole ritual that I went through for this tattoo. And yeah, they drove me out to a rural village for it. So yeah, it was a time.
That sounds terrible.
I so badly want to get one more, but I don't think I have the grit for it again. I don't know if I have the grit for it, but I will try next time I go back to Thailand. I will try to get it.
You already have two.
I know, I know, but I've got like in my mind, I'm like, I gotta finish it, but if I don't, it's no stress. But it was just such a remarkable, it was just like such a remarkable experience. And that's what I think people should really be doing is like not really focusing. I mean, you know, aesthetics. I know everybody likes to, you know, show out and everything like that, but make sure that you are fully indulging yourself into like these experiences. Make mistakes, be uncomfortable, talk to other people. Go. I'm not. Safety is always important, but if you know that you're going to a safe space, everything's not going to look aesthetically pleasing.
Mm.
Um, you got to be okay with poor people. I know people don't want to say that out loud, but you have to be okay with poor people. You have to be okay with slums. You have to be okay with things not being visually pleasing.
Yeah.
Um, but if you can get past that, you will just have so many great experiences. Because if I kept it to like only that's why I don't really connect with when people only do like the luxury aesthetic of
Right.
travel. I don't mind it because I mean I love people, stunned on it. I celebrate it. It just doesn't really call for me necessarily. Um, just because there is so much more, and if you're only looking at like to being with a wealthier class, yeah, you miss out on a lot. There's a lot of truth in things that are there that are poorer.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in my experience, the communities are so much more welcoming to you, and
correct.
like you can really be embraced and immerse yourself in like the local culture if you aren't in those tourist destinations, if you're not staying at the resort or a fancy
Correct.
hotel, you're actually like stepping outside of that and like hanging out with just people, you have a much better experience. And I feel like that's what it's really about. Like it's not about passport stamps. It's about growing,
Correct.
you know.
Correct. No, like that is so very true. And I'm like, also I tell people also embrace who you really are in your personality. I know that people want to be in a be perceived as class and all this stuff, but I am fully myself around the world. I can't hide, I can't blend in with people. This whole idea is like you need to blend in. Boo Boo, you are the only black person in this whole little region. And especially when I would go out to like rural places, there is
The
no such
whole re-
thing. No. Matter of fact, the whole province,
it's just
you
you.
they've never seen. Yeah, you have to be careful. You have to be not careful. You have to be okay with being stared at. You can't find everybody who stares at you. They've never seen you. They've never seen anybody that looks like you. They've never heard your accent before. They've never had anybody visit their village, right? I love going out to rural villages. The thing about it is that I'm gonna lose my train of thought. I lost my train of thought.
You're saying that like people are gonna stare at you, they're gonna look at you, they've never seen you before. So you can't react negatively every time that something like
Oh,
that happens.
okay, I'm bringing back to my point. And so there's no such thing as blending in. People are going to stare at you. People are going to see. So be your full self. Be your full self. People have really enjoyed me of being. I'm a louder person. I'm extroverted. I cackle loudly, so I don't fit necessarily into all standards of European, whatever. But when I've gone throughout the world just being fully myself, I've made so many friends from just being myself. So you don't have to hide when you travel. Of course, you got to be conscious of other people and spaces. Now, the Germans, now that's what I do not. The Germans are too strict for me. I know how you feel about Germany. The Germans are too strict. And so I just know that those are the places that I can't fully be myself, so I don't really do it. But I'm going to be myself regardless. Me trying to hide my American, you can't hide being American. The moment I say hello, people are going to know I'm American. So
Yeah.
I'm truly myself. Be that, and you will make so many good friends. I've made so many introverted friends, and you would think I would be so annoying for them, but we here. We here, you know?
I always think it's good to have an extroverted friend in the back pocket because you've gotten me to do things I wouldn't have done before. You've gotten me out of the house. You've like it's always good. It's always good to have an extroverted friend.
Be like, come on, girl, let's just go and be. I mean, you have to make space for yourself in this world. And it's just like men. Men, when they sit down, they spread their legs wide. They don't have any consideration for anybody. And so in this world, you gotta just spread it wide. Not like that, but you gotta spread the legs and make room for yourself. You know what I mean? Take up space.
Take up space.
Yeah, take up space. So what? If somebody tells you they make a rude comment, do not let rude comments ruin your trip. Just like there are jerks in America, there are jerks all over the world.
Yeah.
Do not let a rude comment. I see so many times online when people go and somebody says something rude to them. Tell them that they look hideous. I don't know. You roast them, but don't let it ruin your time. Don't let one person rob you of that.
Yeah.
So,
And even not to like bring race again, but because I've seen that specifically like in places like Albania, right? Like one person will have a really bad experience and it's like don't use that one experience to color the entire nation. You know,
correct.
like the reality is race in America is going to be different than how it is
Right.
overseas. And so it's it's just more complicated than that and it's so valuable to just focus on the individual relationships that you're building with people. Like give people a chance. Cuz like I get it. We're all walking around with that on our
Oh,
shoulders, but when you start traveling and you can kind of like take that off, like take off that armor,
you're
you
correct.
yeah, you can relax and you can just have the experience and you'll be better for it.
It's so very true because I'll tell you now, Cartagena made me so upset. Cartagena made me so upset because I dealt with it's not race. I dealt with colorism,
Mhm.
right, and perception. You know who I dealt with it from? People blacker than me, but they wouldn't. Oh my God! So when we were there, I was with my other friend. She's black too, right? So we're darker complected and the Afro Latinos were not trying to let us in the clubs, right? And the only reason that we got into the clubs is because a white man would see us standing outside the club, and they could not believe that we were still standing out at the club. They'd be like, "Oh, it's a private party, you can't get in." And then a white man would come up and be like, "What do you mean? They fit the perfect time." So we would get in, and it happened nonstop. I got followed in the store by another Afro Latino because of like colors and perception of blackness, right? Um, but I love Colombia. But unfortunately, these are some of the things that do come with being like Latin America has an issue like our colorism, race, whether or not they're willing to talk about it. It is very much a thing. And where I felt it the most were from other Afro Latinos, right? Because some other people who maybe on the white Latino side, they saw me as American, right? But I mean, they would follow me in the store. I'm like, I don't want to sign there. I'm just trying to get up out of here. But the perception is, um, I'm the way that this one girl followed me around the store. Like, I hope you don't think that you're gonna come in here and just think you can walk through with no problem. And it gave me problems. Cartagena gave me problems. But at the end of the day, I still had a great time. I still suggest people to go, and have a good time. I see people turning up, balling, enjoying Cartagena. Cartagena won't be seeing me.
So you won't go back to Cartagena?
Well, if somebody like had like an event or something like that, I would go back. But do I
Mm.
need to go back by myself? No, no.
So is that the only place you would never go back to?
I wouldn't go back to. I don't need to go back to Bali. Bali does not never need to see me again.
Girls love Bali. The
Uh,
travel.
Bali. I think I don't want to call people liars, but because I know people have had like this beautiful. Bali did not do it for me. I will. Okay, I'm willing to go back to Indonesia, but I don't need to stop in Bali. Like it gave me like pseudo spiritualism. The immigration was the immigration tried to and people also don't talk enough about immigrations like throughout the world and experiences. But the immigration tried to treat me as like if I was like some escort. They couldn't believe I paid for my own trip. I was solo traveling, paid for my own trip, tried to try to get me to admit that I do drugs. I know the laws in Indonesia. I know y'all are strict. Even if I
Even with
did
your
drugs,
passport?
yep, they gave me a hard time. And it got to the point where she asked me so many questions. It just, it just, it turned into just pure curiosity.
Mm.
And I was like, so she's like, you just made this by yourself? And she said, nobody else did. Because, they had at the time when I was there was a big talk about them changing the laws to where nobody else can stay in you have to be married for somebody else to stay in your hotel room. I was there going there by myself for real, for real.
Mm.
And they're like, so nobody else is going to be there. And nobody else paid for this? You say you just paid for this all by yourself. What do you do? What do you do? Okay, so what do you do from a day to day? Oh wow! So you work with because I work with doctors and stuff like this. So you work with doctors, and in Asian culture, doctors are a big deal. So I was like, is there anything? So do you do? So Thailand just passed the drug laws for weed. Do you like marijuana? No. You sure? And as they pulled out all my luggage, they yanked out all my luggage, just yanked out everything. So I was already irritated by Bali. It's too crowded. The water is so dirty. And part of that is because I've been to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world and seen some of the most amazing of nature. I found it to be incredibly dirty. I do not like Bali.
Mm.
The food was everybody was worried about Bali belly. I was worried about I was gonna have stomach issues. Somebody gave me luckily one of my friends was there, so I already had somebody ready to call just in case like I get Bali belly. I couldn't do Bali. It was
Bali belly.
uh-huh. You never heard of Bali belly? Have you ever heard of Delhi belly?
I've heard of Delhi belly.
It's the same thing, Bali belly.
Oh.
So I was
Bali's
not feeling
overrated.
it. Huh?
So Bali is overrated. The girls are lying.
Personally, it didn't do it for me. And then there's a whole bunch of like foreigners have taken over it. It gives me like pseudo spiritualism. The and then I still try to do like as I'm figuring out like just to do some like general tourist things. But I have to also be in the mood to take pictures. I know a Leo, can't believe a Leo saying that, but I don't always want to take pictures. So whenever you go to these places, people want money so bad that they've always got a camera. Man, pay for it. And it comes with people beg. And this is as long as I've ever gone in my life since coming back to the States. I haven't had people beg for money. So I got used to it, right? But it was overkill in Bali. I just did not enjoy it. I know that people have like this beautiful spiritual connection, but there's so many other places in Asia that you can have a better spiritual connection. I'm not telling you where you can have your spiritual connection, but Asia is beautiful. Find somewhere else to do it.
Mm. Okay. All
You
right.
won't be seeing me again.
So then let's talk about experiences that you did like. What are some must-do experiences? Like if somebody's
Go
in their trip, like what go where?
Petra. Petra is amazing. It's in Jordan. It's
Mhm.
not a good time to go. But Petra is beautiful. Um, I mean, Thailand, the South Islands in Thailand are stunning, stunning. And I just met so many fun people, and until I'm still friends with today, because people are just really looking for like a really cool time, and people around our age there too. Um, yeah, dating's fun there too. You'll meet some cute foreigners there too. Um, but that was the first time I ever like got on like a motorcycle by myself. They just have like really good excursions. The islands are amazing. I've already spoke about Vietnam is sensational. Let me think like Costa Rica. Costa Rica is my heart, my soul. I mean, I just love that country so much. I think Ticos are really kind people. I find their food to be so refreshing. It's like super fresh by the seas. Um, I sailed through the Caribbean in Panama. I think Panama has beautiful islands. I think that not enough people check for Panama's islands. Now they're kind of hard to get to, so you need somebody to take you. But Panama's islands are, I mean, just thinking about it, I'm still shook to this day. Me and my friends got a boat, and we got an Argentinian captain, and he sailed through the Caribbeans in the Panama. And it was just such a good bonding experience for like our like as a friend because we had no technology, so we were just like disconnected and just totally with nature and fresh food. And then we would meet other people on the different islands. You do have to pay like a tax to go to some of the islands, but and the cultures are just like so amazing. I know that I said I almost got kidnapped in Cambodia, but Cambodia really changed the game for me. I was having a really hard. I
Every
was
time
having
you
a
say that.
really, it's true, it's the facts. But Cambodia really changed the game for me because I was going through a really hard year this past year. And when I went to Cambodia, and I didn't know how long I was going to stay, but the Cambodian people actually went viral. I don't know if you, but I went viral in
At the
Cambodia.
wait, were
Huh?
you I think I saw that on your
Yeah,
Insta.
somebody was recording me, and it got to the point where people were coming in like, "Oh, I see." Yeah, but the Cambodian people were just so nice, and I stayed in a hotel for a month. By the way, staying in Cambodia for a month in a hotel with like breakfast service, they give you it was like only like 400
Really?
for full out service.
That's crazy.
People, I'm gonna say Cambodia's putting a lot of effort in putting it into the country after they went through a really tough, the Khmer Rouge killed about like 3 million people through the Cambodian genocide.
Mm.
So you see the economic outcomes of that, but a lot of people are coming back home. When I was there, I really got to meet some amazing people, very soulful. I really feel like they changed my life. And I was like such in like a slump because travel does not change everything for you. If you had depression up in America, it will find you in another place. So sadness will find you in another place. Anger will find you in another place. It does not resolve it. But if you're willing to allow people to change you and mold you, that is like the best gift that travel has ever given me. And just the stories I heard from people and people's willingness to be so kind to me, even when I was in a place that I wasn't my best self, they made me my best self again. And for that, Cambodia, I give just like so much of my heart to that country because of that. Small little
Hmm.
blip in my itinerary, but that's okay. That's okay.
That's beautiful. Okay.
Mhm.
Get through some of the comments. We have a question about Cambodia. I don't know if you already answered this, but was it just the vibes or something else that made you feel uncomfortable in the capital in Cambodia?
Oh, well, it looked like somebody was trying to steal my phone. My
Mm.
tuk-tuk driver hit somebody. It was the eclipse. I just didn't want to take. It just felt like every step I took, it was something bad. And I met somebody when I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna leave. I actually was at the market. I was feeling a little bit better. I was like, oh, it's been such a rough day. I think I'm gonna leave, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave because I had to like up and run and leave my Airbnb. I mean, I had to up and run and leave that Airbnb. My hosts were afraid. Everybody was afraid. Everybody was sprinting out.
Mm.
But, and then all these things kept happening. And I was like, well, things got better. I actually met a child soldier who shared his life story with me. He was like, yeah, it's a tough city. It's a dangerous city. You need to be careful. If you can leave, you should. And I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna leave. So I went to go have one drink at a bar, and I met somebody, and they were telling me their life story, and I was like, you know what? I'm going back to the hotel. I'm packing my stuff up. I'm getting out of here. It was just the vibes were not. It was like everything that was telling me to leave. I listened to, and I was just out. I don't question. I learned not to question things. If your instincts tell you to dip, don't wait. Do
Mm.
not wait. I see so many people say, oh, my instincts when I was traveling and this man was following me and I knew I should have left at that time. Leave, leave. Do not wait until something, all the signs, all the signs are there and somebody's lunging at you for you to dip out, especially if you're traveling by yourself. I do not play that.
That's
You
true.
give
You
me
need
weird vibes,
to
I'm
trust your
out.
gut. Yeah. And I think
Hmm.
that voice that's telling you to get out of a situation gets stronger as you travel more. As you become more
Uh-huh.
independent, you learn to sort of trust yourself more.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. You learn it. Look, language. One thing you'll know, you know this is language is not something that you can use as your strength anymore. You cannot. Words are not something that you'll be able to use because of so many different languages, and you don't have time to learn every single language. So you have to look at people's body language. Are they moving funny? If somebody's acting weird, they're being weird. Don't wait until to find out why they're being weird. It's very concrete. So if I see something and if you somebody's keep looking through the back and looking at me, okay, you're acting funny. I'm out. I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm not gonna wait. So, and I think that people are so worried about insulting people. I'm out. So, you're not about to play with me.
Okay, Gretchen says, I always experience post travel depression after coming back from Europe. What helps me is I immediately start planning my next trip so it takes my mind off the losses. It sounds like Gretchen got the coins to be planning her next trip.
Yes, it does help. I do agree with Gretchen though. Even if you're like thinking about what brings you excitement, like okay, I can't wait to go like to Greece, or I can't wait to go to like Dubai. Maybe I get to see some Habibis. Just something that gets you excited about looking at like Pinterest or videos because there's nothing wrong about really kind of creating this idea that you're ready to like when it's time you can walk into. I don't see anything like I know that people want to go back into dive, but be a little or in the clouds about it. But I always tell people what has helped me is to know that your travel is not over. Your travel is not over. Like
Yeah,
the
it doesn't
stories is
have
going
to
to
be.
continue.
It
It
doesn't
doesn't
have
have to be.
and then also whatever place you're at, you could go there again.
You
It
can
could,
go there again.
it's not going anywhere. We hope.
But okay, but I always suggest this is if you want to go somewhere because the world changes at a fast pace. There might be a government coup. There might be something that happens that you may never see the country ever again. So do try to visit,
Fair.
do try to visit a country when you can because life will change. I even like think about Venezuela. I and I always wish the best for Venezuelan people. But I'm the guy that I met. And I've met other people who were able to travel to Venezuela when it was at its top peak economically and talking about how beautiful and I think Santa Marta and all the places that they were able to see. But now, obviously, we can't go to Venezuela, right?
Mm.
And so that's why it's important when you can go to places, go because things can change, governments can change, wars, you know, I don't know, the world can just change. Border restrictions. You never know. The United States is always a fighting with somebody, so we may not be able to get into a place. So,
That's fair.
mhm.
Faith says the US food system is terrible. We really need to get it together. Preach.
But also I think that the U.S. has really trained people to have bad taste in food.
Right. Unhealthy choices.
Because
Unhealthy.
I gave myself 2 weeks when I came back, and I said I'm gonna give myself 2 weeks just to enjoy the the fattening food that I just can't consume like that all the time, but I've been thinking about.
Hmm.
Girl, it was so bad. I didn't even give myself 2 weeks. I wrapped it up in probably about 4 days. And I just went back. I just started cooking again because it was. I went back to Chick-fil-A. I'm sorry. Chick-fil-A, it needs to go straight to A2 double hockey stick for that food. It is awful. I don't know what happened. Maybe my taste buds have changed. It's just it's not giving life. Food needs to be cooked with love. That's where I'm kind of like with the food must be cooked with love, and care and mindfulness and fresh ingredients. I was so mad when I went to Chick-fil-A. Oh, oh, can't pay me to eat it again.
I think this is when we were talking about dating. Angela says these sound like such lovely dating experiences. The Flying Virgo says they make it sound like a black love story book novel, a book and a novel. Black women deserve to feel that appreciated in dating. 100%.
100. I mean, we are, when I meet other Black women who travel quite a bit, it's the same thing. Like, we all feel butterflies because we deserve to. And we're like, oh, it's just like this. You don't have to date, everybody and dating doesn't have to be the center, but even when you're just sitting somewhere and somebody just comes up to you and say, wow, you're just really stunning and beautiful, and the men are just treat you like, what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Like you feel like you're swooning a little bit. Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Good.
thank
Hi.
you. And it's and I feel the difference with coming back to the States, right? Because now I have to like center around, like, I'm not saying I center, but like even with like the clubs in Dallas, right? What they're looking for, the beauty standards to let in these clubs, right? I'm not blonde hair, blue eyes. So even if with my beauty, right, it don't fit the beauty standards, and so it's very different being back here. It's weird. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's very simple minded on how they perceive beauty, and I'm not saying I can determine people's beauty, but not everybody is giving what they think they're giving. There's a
Most
wide range. Most
most
are not, and there's a wide range of beauty, and that's why I love being outside the States because that gets appreciated in certain dynamics, right?
yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Faith says it's always only other black people who practice colorism.
Mm-hmm.
Fair. Black Flourishing and Free says hola, 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 amiga.
Hola.
She's in Mexico now.
Oh, that's what I meant to say. Mexico City.
Mhm.
Ah, Mexico
Yeah.
City. I love Mexico City. The food was amazing. The people are amazing. I went out in Mexico City. Fun. Mexico is a time.
Faith also says, I came in late. How many countries has Bianca visited and what are her social media handles? Bianca,
So for
well,
but
not
I
too
would say
much.
I'm trying to be better. I'm really trying to be better. My thing is just like, what do I think that travel social media has become so popular? So I'm like, is what I experienced, is that something that people want to hear? And people are starting to tell me like, yes, post about it, share about it. So I'm getting better, but TikTok is where I'm showing like my videos and such. So Rome with Bianca and Simply Bianca for my Instagram handle. And this go around, I'm gonna be better about like posting when I get back on that plane and when they give me my passport, my new passport. And I've been around like 25 countries. I've lived in Costa Rica, Spain, and Thailand.
Yeah. I I mean, I think you have some amazing footage from your journey. Just from like the stuff that I've seen, the stuff that you have posted. Um, I mean, you lived a great life, girl. You live in a great life. Yeah.
If I wasn't, that's why I think when you travel, you need a little bit of recklessness, just a little bit. You just need a little bit of recklessness.
Just a tiny
You,
bit. Lose your life
you,
a little bit. Be afraid to lose your life.
because you're not going to leave if you're not willing to be, you have to have a lot of faith in self, but you got to be just like, F it. F it. I hear people saying, like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. I want to do. Okay, you're never going. You're never going. Oh, I want to pay off this. You're never going. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I can always tell when people are not going. And that's why I don't always waste as much energy sharing a lot with people because they will ask all these questions and I'm ready to do it and I'm tired of life here and blah, blah, blah. You'll leave when you're ready, when you're just like, you've had enough, but you need to be reckless enough for it. And you need to let people thought I was going through it. People thought I was having a meltdown when I left.
I did have a meltdown when I left.
But you need it. You need a little. There's so many people who have gone through. I didn't really think my story was like that unique, but I love Eat, Pray, Love. I don't care what anybody says. I
Mhm.
love Eat, Pray, Love because if you've traveled and you've had that type of meltdown or that type of chaotic, like to where when you leave, everything back home just seems like you've left it you've thrown the trash around and you didn't leave it perfect. I
Right.
love Eat, Pray, Love because that really encompasses a lot of what I've experienced with relationship. I remember just stating to my partner, like, oh my God, my life is a train wreck. My life is a hot mess. And I'm just like, it's just me and Mila the dog. And I'm crying because what has my life? I thought I had it together and I realized I have nothing together. And I'm this big age. And I've just totally restarted over. And this is going to be chaotic, but it was a good chaotic.
Right.
And I
And
love a
still
restart.
figuring it out too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like because life is still going.
Facts.
So it's like, yeah, I had this, I always call them tower moments, but I had this like destructive where everything came to an end. Like something where it's
Yeah.
like you break up with a man, you decide to give the apartment up, you lose the job, or you quit the job, and you're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I'm getting old because there's this ticking time bomb. You feel
Yeah.
you feel like, oh my God, I need to have my boxes checked and I don't have my boxes checked. What am I going to do? Like, you literally have a panic attack. And I think to be in that place, to be so down, and then to get back up and
Woo.
to redefine your life and be like, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but I'm doing it. I'm living my life.
At that point, it's just like you're building it from scratch again. And there's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot of fear because there's nobody to give you, you can't rely on that guideline that society, family, culture has. You can take those lessons, but now you're building it from scratch. Yeah, it's scary, but it is worth it. It is worth it. That's why when transformation comes to me, I don't even fight it. Come on, come on. I'm ready for what-
I'm ready. I have to be. I love it.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, Bianca, we've been having a beautiful conversation.
Oh,
What do you want to leave the people with? What advice can you give if somebody's watching this right now and they're afraid to take the leap to travel? What tips, what advice do you have for that person?
um, well, okay, so the advice that I would give them is let go of this preconceived notion of like what it's going to be like, what you're going to experience, and just be open to it. I mean, your life will truly change and experiences will really come if you are open and let go of how you think you should feel, how you think you should experience it. Um, Let me think of like other advice. Also, you must be willing to look at yourself in the mirror. You must be okay uh knowing that there is not perfection. I because of travel, I don't believe in perfection. I create life within my own rules, right? But my rules change. They shatter. Um you must realize that you're not limitless. Uh just go for it. Like I don't there's something really beautiful about disrupting, uh I wouldn't say like the status quo, but also like disrupting something that you hate. What do you have to lose? You already hate it.
Right.
Uh you hate the people that are around you, and that's okay because traveling you'll meet the people that who you really like. Now, that's what I love about traveling. I meet people who I truly like, and you'll meet them in the most random places who will challenge you, who will open up your mind, who will bring the most fun to your life. And this is platonic, romantic. Um, you get to make your own rules. I mean, and when people ask me and they're like, and don't get me wrong, I've been in ruts and stuff like that. But I think what it brought me was, why am I okay with this being awful? Like I can change it. Like I have the power to change it. So I will. Um, and yeah, stop waiting for perfection. It doesn't exist. The perfect moment, just do it. Just do it. You know? It's not gonna be pretty, but it gets pretty. I promise. If I could go back and tell myself when I was when I was popping, look, you're looking for perfection, you're being self-critical, you think that you are supposed to have like the Southern dream, but you don't even like the Southern dream.
You don't even
You think
want
it's fake. You don't
it.
even want it. You hate it, actually. Oh, I do not want the Southern dream. And now I'm okay with saying it. I don't want anything to do with that. And I want to really create, like, when it comes to like home and building, I don't, I will not be telling people I'm going to have 3 and 4 kids. One, and I'm okay with it. People ask me about marriage and kids. I am enjoying myself and how I choose the rules. So yeah, just go for it.
As you should. As
And
you should.
black women are running the world. I have met some of the most spectacular. Ooh, I've met some of the most spectacular black women, and I met you in Barcelona.
Yes. Through a friend of a friend.
Hey, Sister Tilly.
I'm gonna have Tilly come on. We should do something,
Yes,
all three of us. That would be so fun.
because me and Tilly went to Amsterdam, and that was fun.
I know
We went
y'all.
to Amsterdam.
I'm jealous. Y'all were cutting up.
No, but y'all went to South Africa, and that I am jealous of. Oh, I want to
But
see a
anyway,
South African men.
girl, but low key, I don't like women, but I mean, I love women, but not like that. But
Uh,
South African women,
oh, their bodies is and face be the
all
face card don't
shape,
lie.
sizes, gorgeous. South Africa, and I'm, no shade. I'm from New Orleans. We got pretty women in New Orleans. But
Mm-hmm.
Africa, gorgeous women everywhere,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Ooh, see, I'm ready to go to South Africa. But yeah, let's do something. Tilly has some really amazing stories, and she's traveled a lot. We all have a good key when we together, and also when we're 2 and 2 of the group. So
Bopping around the world.
bopping around, bopping around the world.
But thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on my channel, Bianca. I've put your socials in the chat. Anybody who wants to roam with Bianca, add her on Instagram and TikTok. Please like the video, put a comment below, subscribe to my channel, share the video. And this was the
Subscribe.
subscribe. This is the Awkward Black Nomad. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.